And a good Friday evening to you all, and you know it is going to be a good Friday when the comically oversized Snifter has returned, and returned it has, because sliding into view, we've got our beer for the evening, and this is a word I'm not going to be able to pronounce because it is not a word in any language that I believe. It is Majsgoop, M-A-J-S-G-O-O-P. It is a collaboration between Triple F there, that is Three Floyds Brewing, and McKellar. This one is made at Three Floyds Brewing in Munster, Indiana. It is an American, if it'll focus, it'll see what it says. Okay, it's upside down. Never mind. I can't figure that out. It doesn't say it on there, but I do know for a fact what this is. This is an American-style barley wine, clocking in at 10.4%, and let's see if you can see it. There you go. And that is, because it's America, that is the month first, which I don't make sense. It should go small to bigger to biggest. But in any event, the birthday of this was actually yesterday. Yesterday, October the 9th, this beer from 2014 turned 11 years old. And because it is a barley wine, it should be good, because it's heavy alcohol, and we have carbonation, so we're off to a good start. All right, hold on. Yeah, we should be good to go. We should be good to go, absolutely. So we will pour, and the barley wine, it's basically, just do a little of that because it's 10.5%. Yep, still good. And again, this is one of these, I don't know what this particular one should smell and or taste like, but I do know the style. And again, what I was saying, a barley wine is essentially a high alcohol beer that is heavy on one particular thing. This one is heavily based on barley malts. They also have wheat wines, which are based heavily on more wheated malts. And then you got your standard good old malt liquor, which is basically just a butt ton of malts thrown into a 40-ounce bottle. But any port in a storm, as they say. All right, so this is going to be good, so we're going to flip this around and start rambling about something. And here we are over here at the other side. We've got a gigantic fishbowl-esque snifter full of 10.5%, 10.4, 11-year-old barley wine from Three Floyds. I do like Three Floyds. I've actually been there. Years ago, we went through to Chicago and we stopped in at Munster to stop at that place. Actually, had a really good brew pub. The food was pretty good, but... Okay, so what do we got? Caramel. That's it. It's like caramel malts, which... Let's see if this actually said anything, and I'm not messing around with the camera. When Vikings reached the New World centuries before Columbus, they encountered maize. This double IPA, which actually it isn't, by McKellar and Three Floyds recreates these voyages in liquid form. Behold! And explorative. What? Oh, bold and explorative. Well, I made that. And then it gives the Three Floyds website. Either way, definitely isn't a double IPA. Ooh! Yeah. See, an IPA would be more sweet. This is more kind of bitter. Weirdly enough, almost has like a burnt brown sugar taste to it. I kind of enjoy that. Doesn't taste like 10.5%. Not even remotely. That's bad news. That's bad news indeed. But you know what's not bad news? Tonight, and actually this one, thank you to Julie Farnham. She pitched this idea, and then the rabbit hole opened up. She was talking about the college games, college football. And this was one of the things that I absolutely, adored about college football video games. The only thing, because now they're kind of awful, but playing for those weird trophies, like, the old brown jug and Paul Bunyan's axe and all that. And she said, what about a deep dive into them? I was like, all right, that'll be good. And then I started looking at them. There's hundreds. And not just of rivalry games. There's tons of rivalry games. I'm going to give a shout out right now to Pitt, WVU, West Virginia, the Backyard Brawl. It's one of the classics in the area, but there's no trophy for it, so that doesn't count. This is only things that involve a physical, tangible trophy, a traveling trophy, which go back and forth between the schools to whomever has won it last. That said, a couple hundred's a lot, so I figure take a look at the conferences. Starting up at the top, the FBS, which up until whenever they changed that, was basically Division 1A. And the FCS was Division 1 AA, but we'll get to that in a couple of weeks when we get to there. I figure I could do a conference every week during college football season. That could be interesting. We're going to take a look at the first one. It's simply called the American Conference, or just the American. Formerly, the American Athletic Conference, the AAC, sorry. But before that, it actually was the old Big East. From 79 to 2013, then it became the AAC. There's a list of the teams we've got. And this is weird. If you look at that list, there's 3 Owls. 3 Owls in one conference, which I think is just weird. And I don't know how many other Owls are out there, but 3 of them in one conference just seems kind of crazy. So we're going to take a look. And a lot of these, I think there's 9. Just 9 of them. So be ready for a lot of pictures to pop up in this general area here. There are, of the 9 in the American Conference, there's only 1 of them that is a purely interconference battle. And a lot of that is due to conference shiftings over the years, and some of it really drastically affects the even potential future of these games to happen. But we're going to start off with one. This is called the Victory Barrel. Zach, picture. Thank you very much. And this is between, from the AAC, or from the American, the East Carolina Pirates against the North Carolina State Wolfpack. And the Victory Barrel, as you can see it there, is a jaunty-looking barrel. And also a lot of these, because I'm going to put up maps here too with the locations, because a lot of these are really geographically, kind of, based as like this one is. So the story goes, and this is according to, who was it? It was, I think it was North Carolina State, their student body government, who created the trophy. The legend goes that back in the day, there was a fierce rivalry between 2 brothers who grew up almost equidistant in the middle from both of the schools. They were so competitive that they would often compete, and they would keep scores of their competitions on the side of a barrel. Well, as luck would have it, these 2 brothers grew up and went to 2 different colleges. Yes, that's right. One of them went to East Carolina. The other one went to North Carolina State. Yep, you can see where that goes. And then they returned. The competition continued even greater than before. And what year was it? The barrel itself dates back to 1970. However, in 2007, they actually created the barrel. So the barrel itself is relatively new. Right now, currently, the statistics are North Carolina State is up in the series 20-14. They currently hold the Victory Barrel. The next meeting between the 2 teams will be September the 2nd of 2028. So we will see if the Pirates can regain the Victory Barrel. Anything with Pirates and Victory? No, not so much going to happen, I don't think. And now we shall pause for a sip, because now we're going to get into at least one of the Owls. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. It's starting to get more rounded sweetness. Now it's kind of almost getting like raisiny. It's changing a lot. I like it. So the next, we have the Shula Bowl. Zach, pictures. Between the Florida Atlantic Owls and the FIU Florida International University Panthers. They are the non-conference team. This one goes back to 2002. And weirdly, that's the best picture I could find of the actual trophy. I couldn't really find much. Obviously, named after the late, great Don Shula, the man, the myth, the legend of the 17-0 undefeated throughout everything Miami Dolphins. Because at the time of its creation, each school's head coach had a direct tie to Don Shula. Florida Atlantic, the head coach was Howard Schnellenberger, and he was first an assistant under Don Shula in the 1970s. FIU's head coach at the time was a guy by the name of Don Strock, and he was a player for Don Shula in the 70s and 80s. So it came in to honor him, rightfully so, because he is a man that should be honored. And there you have it. The Shula Bowl was born based on two coaches that had direct ties to the man. The series currently is Florida Atlantic is up 17-5, although FIU currently has the Shula Bowl trophy. The next meeting is going to be next year, September the 19th, 2026. So very early on in the season, we will see if the Panthers will give up the Shula Trophy or the Shula Bowl to the Owls. And speaking of Owls, we move on to the next one. This is Rice University. The Rice Owls will take on the SMU, the Southern Methodist Mustangs, who currently have this trophy in the battle for the Mayor's Cup. It goes back to 1916. However, the trophy itself didn't come around until 1998. Currently, and a lot of these are just old rivalries that they decided to create something to. Like, in the Mayor's Cup, I'm not 100% sure why it's called that, but there are several. Actually, there's another one in this video that play for a different Mayor's Cup. It's all based on that. But we are talking in particular this one between Rice and SMU. Currently, SMU holds the Mayor's Cup with a record of 49, 41, and 1 over the years. We're going to go back to 1916, the first meeting between the two, just because when I saw the score, I couldn't believe it. Rice defeated SMU in the very first official battle for the Mayor's Cup, and this is not a misprint, 146-3. Not near as bad as Georgia Tech and Cumberland, 222-0. But that was it. So the last time, it hasn't been played in a while just because the conferences don't line up. The last time it was played was SMU. It was in 2023 when SMU won it. However, the following season they left the American Conference and joined the ACC. So as of right now, until the schedules come out, next meeting of the Battle for the Mayor's Cup between Rice and SMU remains to be determined. What's not to be determined? I get too ahead of myself sometimes, and that's when weird stuff comes out of my mouth. Back to the drink. Yeah. A lot more raisiny now. A lot more raisiny. Ooh. Yeah. It's really getting good. All right. Next, we're going to stick with the Rice Owls, and this time we're going to look at another non-conference opponent. And this time it is the Rice Owls versus the Houston Cougars in the Bayou Bucket Classic. I mean, that's a great name. Cool-looking trophy. I couldn't really find out much about it other than this one has been going on since 1971. It's a geographical-related one. Currently, Houston has the Bayou Bucket. The series is Houston is up 35-12, and because they are non-conference opponents and have been for a while, the next meeting is officially to be determined. We will find out. And now it's like I've made a list of all of these, and I'm going to keep track of them just because now I'm going to be genuinely curious by the end of this. Okay, so we did Rice and Houston. Next, we move down the line from the American Conference. We turn our attention to the South Florida Bulls. This time it's a non-conference game against the UCF, University of Central Florida Knights, and this is the War on I-4, which one is a great name, and as you can see from the map, they're right down the road from each other, essentially on I-4. This one has been going on since 2005, relatively new, but they have a trophy for it. Currently, UCF is up in the series 8-6, and they currently hold the trophy. Now, here's the interesting part. The rivalry itself began in 1971. However, football didn't come around until 2005. But in 1971, it started out as a college baseball rivalry, which I think is really cool. And then it's actually transferred over to all the other sports whenever South Florida plays UCF. Let's see, started in 71 with baseball. UCF moved to the Big 12 in 2023. It's on a long hiatus. The earliest potential next playing of the War on I-4 for the trophy potentially won't be until the 2031 season just because of the way the schedules are lining up. And now we turn our attention to, was it the second Owls? No, the third Owls. The third and final Owls. This time it is Temple. The Temple Owls versus the Villanova Wildcats. Again, a non-conference one, and this time it is a battle for yet another Mayor's Cup. Put it up there, Zach. This is an old one. It goes back to 1908. However, just because of the schedule, the record, Villanova currently has the cup, but the record is 17, 16, and 2. Villanova is up currently. The last time it was played was 7 years ago in 2018, and the next time it will be played, again, to be determined. There's a lot of them. But I think with the smaller conferences, you're going to have a lot more of that because the schools are going to bounce and go to the bigger conferences. I figure once I start getting into the bigger conferences, like, the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC, the SEC, I think it's going to be a lot more like it happened last year, it happened this year, it'll happen next year kind of thing. But we will see. Time will tell, because right now we're looking at the American, and the American is essentially all over the place. Oh, that is just so nice. It's so nice how it just changes so much. So much, but yet so subtly. It's very odd. Man, it goes down smooth, though. It should not. But 11 years old. I'm happy with that. All right, now we've got a pair. It's going to be 2 in a row. We're going to look at Tulane, the Tulane Green Wave. Number one, I love their logo. And non-conference one, this time it is the Battle for the Bell against the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles, or just the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. The Battle for the Bell. The Bell, currently held by Tulane University. Southern Miss is up in the series 24-10. They've had quite the run, but right now Tulane has it. The next meeting will be next year, September the 26th, and it will be played at Tulane, which I believe is... Tulane is in New Orleans. Yeah, Tulane is in New Orleans. That's going to come in handy for this next one because we're going to stick with Tulane. This time, it's the Battle for the Rag, and depending on who has it, it's either the Tiger Rag or the Victory Rag, because this time it is Tulane against the LSU Tigers, so a much, much, much bigger school. This is an old one, the oldest one in the American. Goes back to 1893. Currently, LSU 1 has the rag, so it is currently the Tiger Rag, and LSU is up in the series 69, 22, and 7. Now, however, here's the kicker. Battle for the Rag hasn't been played in a while. I'm talking, last time it was played was 2009. It has been a while. Essentially, the Victory Rag might be essentially dead, but it's got an interesting history. The original flag, the picture there was not the original flag. The original flag was destroyed in 1982 when there was a fire at the Tulane University Center. And a lot of their athletic stuff went, including the original rag, and this was the another one they made. Now, it bounced around. There was many, many gaps between the late 90s and mid-2000s. And then in 2006, they started to play again, and it continued on 2006, 2007, up until 2009, at which point LSU wanted out. They offered a buyout of $700,000 to void the last 6 years of the series, because they would have to travel, and they felt that it would be more beneficial to them being LSU, to hold the games in Baton Rouge, which is where LSU is, as opposed to New Orleans, which is where Tulane is. Tulane agreed, said they would end the series early, though both teams have agreed to play one more game sometime in the future in New Orleans. We don't know when that game is going to happen because LSU apparently has steadfastly refused to play said game. So, will the final battle for the Victory Rag or the Tiger Rag be held? We don't know. It's going to be interesting to find out. I kind of would like to see it just one more time just to send it off into the sunset. And I know there's so much money involved in college football, blah, blah, blah. And it's gotten kind of boring. It's just sad. But I can bring it right back because we're going to have one more sip and we're going to talk about the last one. Boy, they went fast, didn't they? And that's I think the problem is because a lot of them are so new, especially in this conference, there's not a whole lot of history behind it. But I guarantee you, once we get into some of the bigger ones like the Wagon Wheel and, Paul Bunyan's axe and whatnot, there's going to be a lot more actual lore to it, which I think is going to be a lot more fun. So we're going to take another sip. Mm-hmm. God bless you, Snifter. And now, the final one, and this one is the best one. This is the only conference one, the only official in-conference one for the time being. This is the Battle for the Bones. Number one, it's a great name. It is between the UAB Blazers at University of Alabama at Birmingham and the Memphis Tigers. Very geographically located and also culturally. A cultural battle. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. Because it started as a basketball rivalry, but football came around in 97. Then in 2006, they introduced that. That is the trophy. That is called the Bones. It is a 100-pound bronze statue of a rack of ribs. I will repeat that just in case you missed that. 100-pound bronze statue of a rack of ribs. That is what we are talking about. Now, essentially, it's because of the barbecue reputation, Birmingham versus Memphis. So they kind of went barbecue. And speaking of that, they really leaned into it, and thank God they did. Because before the game, before the Battle for the Bones, outside, in the parking lot, whatever stadium they're in, that's right, there is a barbecue competition. I believe that's what you would call a life goal. One day. And actually, weirdly, what day is today? Nope, today's Friday. So, the Battle for the Bones. Currently, the Bones is held by the UAB Blazers. So the Bones reside in Birmingham. That is where the game next Saturday, a week from tomorrow, is being played. The Battle for the Bones comes next Saturday, October the 18th. Live from Birmingham, where the UAB Blazers currently are up in the series 10-7. Who's going to leave with the Bones? Will the Memphis Tigers go back to Memphis with the Bones? Honestly, I really want to find out. I'm going to watch the Battle for the Bones next week. And again, I think you should too, or at least follow it. We may not be able to watch it. But I mean, come on, October the 18th, 2025, UAB Blazers hosting the Memphis Tigers in the Battle for the Bones. That's what it's all about. That's the cool stuff. And because I'm going to wrap this up with a ramble. Because I went to a Division III school, the University of Rochester, if anybody's curious, I only managed to play football. I was on the roster 2 years, but I was often injured. Freshman year, I partially tore the MCL in my right knee, missed the first 4 weeks. My sophomore year, after about the third or fourth week, I blew out several vertebrae in my lower back, and that ended my collegiate football career. But I don't think Division III had any, or at least any. And again, but like the difference between D1 and D3, Division I, or the FCS, FBS, whatever, they have so many bowl games. So many bowl games. Like, I think it's something like 45% of Division I schools end up in a bowl game at the end of the year. You know how many bowl games Division III has? 1. It is for the national championship, the Division III national championship. It's called the Stag Bowl, named after the famed and former University of Chicago head coach Amos Alonzo Stagg, who, if I remember my lore correctly, I might do a deep dive into him because he's an interesting character, died at the age of 102 and I think was still coaching until the age of 97 or 98. But that said, this was fun. Julie, thank you so much for the suggestion. I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with that because, let's see. So the American Conference, what would be next? American, probably the ACC. So that could be a good one because there's going to be a lot of schools in there. That might be a longer episode, but we will see come next week. And also because it's Halloween. Well, I mean, it is. October is Halloween. Let's call it what it is. I might try to do maybe a little horror stuff. Could be interesting. I don't know. We'll see. But the football thing I kind of like. I'm gonna roll with this for a while. So we're gonna have one more sip of beer. Oh, and actually, speaking of that, tomorrow is gonna be a bit of a tease, because tomorrow's suggestion comes from Maiden's World of Wax, who said, "Dude, because I talked about it very, very briefly in a Jank Pack Thursday a few weeks ago. Playlist will be somewhere on the channel, by the way. I'm not a basketball fan because Pittsburgh never had an NBA team in my lifetime. So Maiden said, dude, why don't you just dig into the history of Pittsburgh basketball? And there's a lot more than I thought there was. Let's put it that way, including somebody that's tied to Pittsburgh basketball that I did not know about. And I'll give you a little teaser for that. This one person in particular to which I refer, who is very deeply tied into the early days of Pittsburgh basketball, is a member of the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame. So until tomorrow, I'm going to take one more sips, and because this is an American-born beer, this is going to be cheers, my friends. So if you're having one along with me, cheers. We're going to finish that. I'll finish that later. Because don't forget, Aaron's live right now, Sports Cards and Things. Go check him out. Is he live? No, he wouldn't be live yet because this goes at 10. He doesn't go until about 10:30, 10:45 Eastern time or so. But either way, go check out Aaron's Sports Cards and Things. He's a good guy. And I'm going to leave you with this parting thought. Because initially it's going to be dog, but if you think, like, if your animal, your pet, your dog, your cat, if they brings you a toy, is it their favorite toy, or do they think that it's your favorite toy? Have a good night, everybody.